Welcome to Sisters Inc., our podcast for and about women business owners, brought to you by Black Enterprise. I'm your host, Elisa Gums. Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in America. And on every episode of Sisters Inc., we'll sit down with one successful CEO and share how she slays the challenges of being a Black woman in business. Today's episode is all about breaking into new industries. We're chatting with Samia Gore, founder and CEO of Body Complete RX. She's a true pioneer in her field as the first Black woman to break significant ground in the male-dominated nutritional supplement industry. Welcome to Sisters Inc., Samia, and thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you started Body Complete RX because it was what you needed for your own weight loss and wellness journey.
Absolutely.
Set the scene for us, please. What was going on in your life that led to the creation of your products?
Absolutely. So the year was 2016, and I had just had my fourth child in 2014 and had picked up a considerable amount of weight during that pregnancy, as some women do. And so I started out sharing my journey on social media, where I was just really trying to lose this 80 pounds that I had picked up during this pregnancy. And I was trying different supplements to help aid me along the way. And I couldn't find anything that was like natural on the market to help me with weight management. So I started looking into different formulas and different ingredients that help with weight management and natural supplements and formulas. And I stumbled upon a product, which was a product that had African mango, and it helped with metabolism boosting. So I reached out to one of my friends who's a brand nutritionist and asked her if she would look at the product and look at some of the things that I wanted to do in terms of developing a weight management product. And that is what we first launched with Body Complete RX. It was originally a weight management product that helped me lose the weight after having my fourth child, and then went on to help other women and men lose weight as well.
When you were starting the company, there wasn't someone who looked like you who was doing what you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
How did you develop your blueprint for the brand? And where did you turn for help or advice when you needed it?
Uh, so there wasn't a blueprint. There wasn't a blueprint. I mean, hopefully, I think that I'm outlining a blueprint now for other women and men who look like me, who are looking into getting into the supplement industry. But at that time, it was really just creating a brand that where I wanted to see myself in my brand. I wanted a brand that I felt like spoke to me, spoke to my interests, and also felt like a community. So that's what I set out to develop around the brand of Body Complete RX. It's not just a product. I like to say that we're also a community as well, because it's not just about taking supplements, but it's also about, developing and curating a healthy lifestyle. So never had a real blueprint in terms of what I'm doing now, but obviously, there are other brands that are not Black woman-owned brands that, definitely inspire me to want to achieve those great things for my brand, and expand our brand across in those ways that they have as well. So I guess I say that.
And where did you turn for help? Because that's one of the biggest things that I hear when I talk to women who are like first in their field. They were like, oh man, I wish I had somebody who was like me, so that, when I ran into things, I knew where to go.
Yeah. So to be honest, for the first several years in my business, I really did operate in like a bubble. Unfortunately, I didn't have the resources or someone, to turn to, like an investor, someone that was more versed in the field of starting a brand and starting a business. So I really didn't have much of anyone to turn to other than myself. In the first couple years. Since then, I've come along, other brand owners and other CEOs and founders who I've made connections with, who I've now been able to reach out to, for advice or having a conversation. But in the beginning, there was really kind of no one to turn to. I actually like to ache in myself because I've had a few, brand founders who are starting companies in the supplement industry who've turned to me over the past couple years. And so that's been really exciting as the person to that people, want to have a conversation with on how did you start? How did you grow this?
You said a couple of things earlier that have already struck me. The first is that you really wanted to see a brand that spoke to you. What did you feel like was missing in the supplements industry?
Well, one, clean supplements. So our products are completely plant-based. Like I said, originally I was looking for a plant-based weight management product and I couldn't find that on the shelves. So our product is a completely plant-based weight management product. So just clean supplements, also supplements that were curated with us in mind. And when I say that, I say, our products are made for everyone, but it was created in part with a Black woman, doctor and nutritionist, Dr. Ruby Lathan. And in creating those formulas, she specifically, took each of our formulas and looked at them, very with a fine tooth comb and made sure that we added ingredients to our products that help support people of color. So for instance, in our protein, we have sweet potato and beetroot added to our protein, and it helps with heart health and also diabetes, which is something that in the African American community, something that we face at large numbers. So when curating our products, not only is it, our products are for everyone, we like to say, but they're made with us in mind, which is something that cannot be said for many of the products that are on the shelves.
The other thing that I thought was so important was your mention of community, because, anyone who's ever started a weight loss journey knows that it's not something that you can do on your own. And I think, especially for Black women, the idea of a weight loss journey is like rooted in community. So, how did you go about building that community?
Um, I feel like our community has been built extremely organically through social. I think that consumers find our product, find our, maybe they might find our product at Vitamin Shop or on our website, but then they come to our page and we really do, you know, give community resources. So when you come to our page, you'll see we have like a weekly challenge that we do that's about just developing lifestyle habits like drinking water, taking a walk for the day, things that don't have anything to do with taking a supplement, but more so around your daily habits and curating that lifestyle. So I think that our community has just naturally grown from just sharing that type of content and really connecting with our consumers in those platforms.
As I mentioned in the intro, the supplement industry is male dominated. What was it like for you as a Black woman starting out in the space when you were just trying to get your foot in the door?
Uh, so I would say, um, well, one, I mean, we didn't launch into retail until, 5 years in being, direct to consumer. So it just, it took us a longer time to get there. And then also, now that we're here, a lot of the bigger brands are, bigger players that we have to compete with in stores and on shelves. So some of these brands, have a lot of funding, a lot of backings, things that we don't necessarily have, but we still have to compete in the same space. So what is it like to compete in the same space? I mean, it's kind of like being an underdog. So we appreciate, our customers so much who, do support us, either be online or, in stores, because we are, just that. We're an underdog. We're fighting for our way on the shelves and on the shelves, and we're staying there because of our consumer support.
That's awesome. I was at a virtual event last week and Barbara Corcoran was speaking and she was talking about being the underdog and how it has its advantages because you can really be close to your customer and you can really be nimble and move quickly. And it sounds like, you're really focused on the customer and that you reap the benefit of that relationship.
Yes, absolutely.
So your supplements are not only produced by a Black woman, but you just told us that they're also formulated by a Black woman
Mhm.
nutritionist as well. Of course, here on Sisters Inc., we stand Black women working together. So tell us the story behind that partnership.
Yes. So Dr. Ruby Lathan, she actually is a vegan chef, and she was featured in What the Health, if you're familiar with that documentary, because she actually went on a vegan journey in 2017 to cure herself of thyroid cancer. She was diagnosed with thyroid cancer and changed to a vegan diet. And so I first became familiar with her back in 2016 through a friend of mine in the DC area. And this was before she was actually on What the Health, and was connected to her just on the plant-based, her doing plant-based meals and plant-based diet, and started talking to her about supplements that she had been using. And this was before my even idea of having my own supplement brand. So I'm really connected to her through a friend, a mutual friend here in DC. And thankfully, had made that connection, because when I had my idea to start my company, she was one of the first people that I called to, even have the conversation on what does that look like to even, formulate formulas, and if she was familiar with that, which thankfully she was. So, yeah, just through a mutual friend, but everything happens for a reason. So it was a beautiful encounter.
I love that you mentioned that you called her to be like, what does that even look like? I always wonder. I mean, of course, you had a day job. You were not an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. You were not a nutritionist by trade. You had never created a product before. And so I'm always like, how do people get over that leap from I've got this idea in my head to I'm actually going to do this? And so what were those early conversations like?
The early conversations, I guess, were just that, like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm looking for. I am someone who, I can use an aid when it comes to weight management, and I'm looking for ingredients that'll help me, but that are uh, natural. And so that was the initial conversation that I had with her. And so we started, talking about different ingredients that help in weight management and weight loss, that were natural, and how we could use those different ingredients and different formulas that would help, myself as a woman. At that time, I was, 35. So, to help myself as a 35-year-old woman who, having a slow down metabolism, the things that I was facing. Um, and those initial conversations, looked just like that. And then we worked with the laboratory and took those conversations to a laboratory and said, this is what we'd like to do, and this is what we think should be added to these particular formulas. And our laboratory was a great partner in helping us to actually see that through.
As you mentioned earlier, and as your website states, the supplements are formulated by Black women for everyone.
Mhm.
There's a common misconception out in the marketplace around Black owned products that they're just for Black people, or that they'll only attract Black customers.
Mhm.
So, were you confronted with that as you were building the company? And if so, how did you counteract it?
That's such a good question. Um, so to be honest, in the beginning of the company, no, I didn't. I don't feel like that was necessarily an issue, but I feel like that was because uh, I wasn't necessarily included in the branding in the beginning, and that was actually by design. I feel like in the very beginning, I had a little bit of what is it called? What do they call it? I forgot what the term for it is. Basically, when you're new in an industry and you don't have anything, anyone to reference, you have, what is that term?
Like imposter syndrome?
Yes. Imposter syndrome. You're new in an industry. It's like, who do you reference? You don't really have a reference. So it's like, who are you, this Black girl, to be making proteins? And who are you, this Black girl, to be, doing vitamins, especially, for people who are used to. So in the beginning, I wasn't necessarily a part of my brand. And then when people would find out that I was a part of that I was the owner of the brand, I would see comments like, oh, well, if it's not at the Vitamin Shop, then I don't trust it. or if it's not sold in stores, then I don't trust it. So those are the things that you see, as a Black woman in a new space, where you're trying to carve out space. And even till today, even though, that we are now at Vitamin Shoppe and that I am very much so in front of the brand, you still, I still encounter that kind of feedback. So it's a really interesting duality. It's like, I want to be in front of my brand and encourage other people who would like to get into this space to also, step out and be in front of their brands as well. But also knowing that sometimes that can be, challenging in our own community.
Yeah.
So it is
I,
what it is.
I think it's such like a valid concern, and I've heard a lot of other Black women founders say they struggled with that when they were starting their businesses, about whether they should be the face of the brand or not, whether they should be included in the branding or not, whether it was going to help their sales or hurt their sales. And it's so unfortunate that we're in this position where we have to make that decision, but it also is so powerful, now that you are the face of your brand, and that the next Black woman who comes along and wants to start it doesn't have to say, who am I, this Black girl, to do this, because she can point to Samia and say, we do this.
Yes,
So,
we do this. We can do this. We can do
yes, we can
our
do this. So, that is amazing. Um, you mentioned the Vitamin Shoppe. Last year, your supplements launched there, making you the first Black woman owned brand to be sold in their weight management category. How did that breakthrough come about?
or how did the partnership come about? Or
Yeah,
oh,
how, I mean, you like broke into there, you were the first one. So how did that partnership come about? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so I didn't know when launching at the Vitamin Shoppe that we would be the first Black woman owned and formulated brand, to be in their weight management category. Um, I just knew that, we wanted to definitely look at getting into retail. We had been to direct to consumer for several years, and going retail does get your brand exposure, across more areas than just online, right? So that was really important for us. Vitamin Shoppe approached us in March of 2020, I guess just from seeing our brand online. And I think consumers were going into the Vitamin Shoppe asking for our product, and it wasn't sold there. So they actually sent an email directly to me in March of 2020. This was a month before COVID, with interest in having us on shelves. And then COVID happened and everything shut down. But they came back to us. And eventually we launched in August of 2021 there. So the partnership came about just from them, noticing what we were doing, and seeing our product online. And as since, we initially had launched with our trim line at Vitamin Shoppe in August in 2021. And just this past May, actually Mother's Day, we launched our protein. So our plant-based protein is now available at Vitamin Shoppe nationwide. And it's the first Black woman-owned protein to be sold on their shelves as well. So, wasn't setting out to be the first in these areas, but it's really interesting that it is.
Okay. And your relationship with them has continued to grow, as has your influence on the industry, as you were named to their wellness council. So tell us about that.
Yes. So I am a member of the Vitamin Shoppe Wellness Council. There's 7 members of this particular council, and our job is really to provide support to Sharon Leidy, who is the Vitamin Shoppe CEO, provide feedback in terms of what our consumers are asking us for, different products that consumers are looking for, and any insight that we have for our consumer base and our customer base, and bringing that to the CEO of Vitamin Shoppe so they can look to make improvements and changes there. As the only Black woman on the Vitamin Shoppe Wellness Council, I do feel a responsibility, obviously, to definitely have a voice for my community, when it comes to health and wellness and what we're looking for when it comes to consumer-based products at the Vitamin Shoppe, and even content that the Vitamin Shoppe has for our community. Those are things that I like to speak about on that council.
I think it's amazing that in just, the course of 5 years, you have gone from, feeling some imposter syndrome, being like, I'm new to this industry, I don't have anyone to reference to, advising the CEO of the Vitamin Shoppe in this role, saying, and so in case you haven't taken a moment to like let that soak in, like from the outside, we are super proud of that. That is
You.
amazing.
Thank you so much.
You haven't just managed to break into a new industry, you are out here killing it. You have expanded beyond your original weight management products, and you now have 5 different product lines focused on the complete wellness journey. And you've done more than $10 million in sales since you started the company 5 years ago. So, what would you say have been the secrets to your success?
Oh, I think the secrets to our success, one, has been a great product. I feel like, I've grown this brand, and I call it bootstrapping. And, there's so many different iterations, when it comes to packaging. People look at like my first packaging, it was not, what it is today. But, we have such a great product. And so, I would have customers say, I don't care what it's packaged in. It could be in a paper bag. I love this product. It works for me. And so I feel like that has been, a huge thing, because when people love something, they tell other people, and then it just grows like wildfire. So I think, one, having great products and great product ingredients that actually have helped people. Two, I think probably the authenticity behind who I am as a brand founder. A lot of, my initial consumers were my followers, people who just, were following me and my journey along the way. And then when I released products, obviously they supported those products. So I feel like that has definitely led just organic growth and organic engagement, and a great product, I feel like has been definitely crucial to the brand growth.
You just mentioned that you are bootstrapped. Your company is self funded, and capital is probably the number one conversation that I have with Black entrepreneurs, and especially Black women entrepreneurs. What can you share with us about your funding journey and about what has worked for you?
So, I guess, what can I share? What, what I can share is, to date, we have bootstrapped the company to date. Going forward, we have had several conversations regarding possibly looking at having investors, and a or more investors in the brand going forward, just because you do grow quicker and faster with an investment. So, those are conversations that we're having right now. But to date, we are proud to say that we have been able to, grow and expand the brand just by self-funding.
Any advice for other women entrepreneurs out there who are self funded?
I would say keep going. Keep your eyes on your revenues, and make sure that you're budgeting properly. Being self-funded, you don't have like this big pot of cash to pull from to grow your brand. You're really just always reinvesting everything that you're earning. You're reinvesting in different ways into your company. So, if that's your journey that you're on, I say that, keep going. And if you have an opportunity to have an investor, that's something that you want to take into consideration. Having an investor that is a partner, that's somebody, sometimes, or a lot of people who I know who, have investments, that becomes like your partner, and it's no longer, your company. It's, your company plus your investor or investor's company. So those are things to always consider. And that is necessarily not a bad thing either. But those are all things to consider when you're thinking about moving forward with investor. If you do have the funds to continue to bootstrap, I would say do that.
Okay. So, but my last piece of advice I'm going to ask you to share with our audience, as a company who was direct to consumer for the first few years and has now gone into retail, that is also a big jump for a lot of brands. What are some of the things you learned in that process?
Oh, so one of the things that we're learning, it's actually like a right now, it's, what is it called, like a we're we're scaling.
Yeah.
And so, we're learning that, direct to consumer, retail, with retail, obviously, that's a partnership in retail. And, retailers do take their partnership percentages. And so those are things that you have to consider when you're, originally are direct to consumer and you're used to receiving, all of your revenues directly versus having to split those revenues with retailers and fund your retail and that, retail growth. It can definitely be taxing. It can definitely be taxing. So that's another thing, to consider when you're bootstrapping and going into retail is, what does that look like in terms of your partnership there, and how can that, possibly change what you're looking at when you're just online versus now you're online, in stores, everywhere. So it's a double-edged sword and definitely something to keep in mind.
Thank you so much, Samia, for sharing your small business success story. Everyone out there, please take a look at the company website, bodycompleterx.com. You can also follow them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at BodyCompleteRx. Check out the podcast channel on blackenterprise.com to find Sisters Inc. and more podcasts from Black Enterprise editors, writers, and experts. Be sure to subscribe to Sisters Inc. on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, or YouTube. And if you like what you hear, show us some love by leaving a 5-star review or put a sister on by spreading the word. This is Elisa Gums with Sisters Inc. for Black Enterprise. Thank you for listening.